Hello, and welcome to The Queer Gaze, a gay movie podcast dedicated to examining queer representation and issues.
We're still looking at the theme of doomed sexy experimentation, and we're exploring the Mexican import by Alfonso Cuarón, 2001's Tu Mamá También.
You can support The Queer Gaze at patreon.com/thequeergaze, where you'll get early access to episodes and extra content.
And you can follow us on social media at The Queer Gaze.
Okay, so Conrad, Tu Mamá También, this is a film that you had not seen before, so I'm curious to see how you kind of package it all together.
Yeah, it's scandalous, isn't it, really? It's one of those incredibly famous films, quite the darling on the festival scene, showered with awards and praise, and 90% at Rotten Tomatoes. This is a 2001 Mexican film. It's a road movie, and it features two young characters played by Gael Garcia Bernal as Julio Zapata, Diego Luna, Andor himself, as Tenoch Iturbide. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they are from very different social classes. Tenoch is from a very, very wealthy family. I think early on we see them at a wedding where the president or something attends. So, yeah, can't get much more prestigious than that. Whereas his friend Gael is from the lower middle classes, working classes, but they are friends and they are desperate to have sex with as many women as possible, even resorting to trickery, including promising to take a Spanish woman named Luisa Cortez, played by Maribel Verdú, on a trip to the beach, naming a beach that does not exist. And after Luisa gets some disappointing news, she, on a whim, decides to go with them, even though they run around her like excitable puppies, and thus the road movie begins.
Yes, many adventures ensue, and we have all kinds of scandalous affairs, including, I mean, this is an interesting pick for our podcast, right? Because I think some people could say, well, they're not queer, so why are you looking at this? But obviously the movie does end in a threesome in which the boys do sleep with each other. So I think part of my, I guess, consideration of the film is I personally was very affected by this when I watched it in 2001. This would have been the year that I finally came clean to myself that I was gay. And this movie helped me in no small amount in discovering or making that realization. But I think there is this underlying sexual tension between the boys throughout the whole film, just because at the end they go their separate ways and we learn that they don't talk ever again. It doesn't mean that the feelings and the friction that they experience throughout the film isn't real.
No, I was reminded of one of the films that we looked at when we were doing our Reacts series of coming of age tales, because of course this is another coming of age drama.
Yes.
And yet again, it features two guys who are in the habit of masturbating together.
There we
on diving boards by a swimming pool in this case. And name-checking Salma Hayek. I don't know if she was
she was everywhere
by that.
in the early 2000s.
she was indeed, yeah. And yeah, so that reminded me of that thing with the German rowing club that we really enjoyed, which featured the two childhood friends. One of them is secretly crushing on the other, and when that comes out, things become very, very tense. But in that case, one of them is definitely coded as queer, the other one is definitely coded as straight. And so their eventual resolution of this tension is fairly amicable once things settle down, once you get through the misery montage. This one, on the other hand, has a much more fatalistic view, which is that this tension between them is not one that they can resolve because of social expectations, not only driven by their masculinity, but also by their class, that they will just not be able to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, we're going to save some of the, I don't know if we could call it political allegory or just maybe social commentary that is embedded in the film, but we are going to talk about that in the Patreon exclusive portion of the
Mm,
episode. But if you are intrigued by the film that Conrad mentioned, that would be Summer Storm. So we do have a reaction video that you can also watch on Patreon. So if you're at all intrigued, it's just a couple of bucks over there.
it is indeed. Yeah. But the masculinity is also a key part of it. There's a
Oh,
lot of
God, yeah.
horseplay between the boys.
I knew you'd be clocking that.
Oh, yes. A lot of insulting each other's penises, which,
Yes.
oh dear.
Your penis is ugly. It's like, that is typical straight boy behavior. And it is so embedded in masculinity. And I think even the boys are so machismo, right? Which is a very sort of Mexican, arguably also Spanish thing. But it's a cultural element that I think we maybe take for granted as people who live either in Canada or the UK. But I really connected to the way that there is this kind of like violent, insulting camaraderie. Because I remembered even back in high school, I had a friendship that was almost identical to this. It was a little bit of opposite sides of the tracks, but almost all of our interactions were insults and making fun of the other person. And at the end of the day, this person fully was like, oh, I don't want to be around you, because I think they realized that there was a queerness about the way I was doing it. And with them, they were just like, nah, bro, it's not for me.
Oh, I see. See, I could never stomach relationships like that because as soon as the machismo, insulting each other stuff would start, I would just be offended just
Right. Fair.
immediately. So I would be gone as soon as that kind of thing started. I never understood why men have this thing where they just spend all of the time dissing each other and undermining each other and playing
Hmm.
pranks on each other and hurting each other. I just do not get it. It does not compute with me. As soon as somebody does one thing to me, I walk away.
Well, you're also an adult at this point.
Well,
Or
this is true.
maybe you've learned your lesson. But I think within the world of the film, it's strangely isolated, right? Like we do see them interacting with a couple of other people early in the film, because this is also a summer movie. So we wrap up the school year, we send the girlfriends away on a Italian vacation, essentially warn them slash chastise them, hey, don't fuck any Italians or any other dudes, and then immediately plot, how many women can we sleep with, or how do we get as many women to sleep with us as possible. But it's really just the two guys spending all of their time together, almost as if they have no one else. And that also felt very true to like a kind of high school experience where it's geographical proximity, age relationships, and partially you don't know that there are other people who are maybe better suited for you out there. Like these boys feel like they live a very insular life.
Yeah. And they remain in it throughout the entire movie, which again is something that we can talk about in more detail in the Patreon bonus. But they do live in this rarefied bubble
Hmm.
throughout the entire movie, oblivious to the outside world around them,
Oh my
and
God.
pretty oblivious to Louisa as well and her needs. I mean, one of the things that I found most striking in the film is the moment when, driven by their sexual urges, they try to watch Louisa undress
Right.
without her knowledge,
Hmm.
and they find her crying,
Right.
which feels like even more of an intrusion
Oh,
on her
yes.
privacy. And later on, it's revealed that she's aware that they were
Hmm.
there. She challenges them on it. So they're also in that stage of life where they haven't quite realized that the world doesn't revolve around them and
Hmm.
satisfying their immediate needs and urges, and that other people exist and they have feelings. And when confronted with them, then not mature enough to be able to deal with them, at least not at the beginning of the
No.
journey.
Yeah, we kind of get there in the end, but even the end of the film when they meet up a year after the events of the vast majority of the movie, it seems like maybe they have matured, but also they can't reconcile their differences, as though they are still only willing to stay within their isolated bubble, and the other one has fallen out of it. And as a result, well, we can't be friends anymore.
Yeah. And I think that comes right at the very moment after the threesome when they wake up
Yeah.
naked in bed together.
Hmm.
Immediately they want to get out of there. And the narrative collapses. There's no more discussion, no more events. They just return home, separate. And when they meet again, it's fairly awkward and perfunctory.
Yes, almost like a one night stand where you don't know quite what to make of it.
Yes. Not that we do those, Joe, famously.
Right, no. But so I've heard. So I've heard. I guess the other interesting thing is when you look into this film, almost the number one thing that comes out of it is everybody wanted to comment on the sexuality and the nudity and the kind of laissez-faire approach to everything. And I think in some ways this is a little scandalous. Like, to me, this is very much back in the period when I was just getting into watching foreign films with some regularity. I wasn't familiar with Alfonso Cuarón. I hadn't watched, The Little Princess or Great
Great
Expectations.
expectations, yeah.
Those are his two big Hollywood films. And he makes this almost, I think, to test himself and say, can I still tell other kinds of stories in the way that I want to tell them? Things that are more personal, things that are very culturally specific, but also just like technically completely outside of the Hollywood studio system. I'm not doing things the way that you would normally do it. I'm going to film it documentary style. But the film, as a result, has this kind of carefree, sexy summer breeze vibe to it, even though, yeah, there is a lot more going on under the surface. But when you read reviews, everybody just wants to be like, oh my God, we're seeing so much dong in this movie. And everybody's just like fucking everybody else all the time.
Yes, I remember keenly that when Alfonso was given the job of directing the third Harry Potter movie, everybody was
Yes.
terrified
Oh
what
my
was going to
God.
happen.
Everyone at Hogwarts is going to be fucking each other.
I see. That's the trilogy I want to see.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I do remember it. And it was scandalous. I mean, we got to remember this is 20 years ago, this movie,
Oh my
which
God. How
is
dare you?
shocking.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, it is, but I think it's so emblematic of the kind of puritanical approach that especially North American cinema has to frank depictions of sexuality, and the fact that, yeah, like our two protagonists are kind of shithead boys. Like, it's so fascinating because Garcia Bernal and Luna have gone on to become huge stars in their own right. So
Mm.
this is a bit of a curiosity to go back and revisit because they're so frank and unabashed. Like there's no shame or reservedness in being like, oh, I'm just going to see your penis right now. And it's not an issue, right? But
No.
for especially, highfalutin, fancy, like this movie got Oscar nominations. This movie got Golden Globe nominations. This was made by a darling who had made these two classics of North American Hollywood cinema. What are we doing? Oh my God. Oh. It's just like, no, it's fine, everybody. We're going to be okay. These two teenage boys can have a sex drive.
Yes. Well, and can you imagine the pearl clutching at the end of the movie when Louisa just ducks out of frame and the two guys gently start moving towards each other and then finally kiss?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too because it's not even as though we are trying to read something into the film that is not there, because Louisa actively throughout the entirety of the film, like, she knows that the boys want to fuck her. She's very obviously in the know about this is why they asked her, an older woman who is married to one of their cousins, to come on this trip is because they have aspirations of intercourse with her. But also, she makes, I want to say, no less than 3 different comments about how what they really want to do is fuck each other.
Oh, yeah. She's very explicit about it. Yeah. And also points out that there's not much point in it anyway because they come after 3 strokes. So it's not
Oh my God.
really much to write home about, bless them.
No, I mean, I do love that this movie opens with 2 literal sex scenes, one for each of the boys. We see them having sex with their girlfriends, Anna and Cecilia, respectively. And this is, I believe, what Sex in the City calls jackrabbit sex, where it's just get in there and pump as hard and as fast as you possibly can to come as quickly as possible. Never mind the woman's pleasure or any kind of foreplay. There is that moment where Tanakh basically goes to have sex with Louisa, and she says, "Well, why don't you go down there and provide me with some pleasure? Eat me out a little bit." And he needs to be told to remove her underwear.
Even then, he doesn't do a very good job of it.
These boys are bad at sex. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, really, really bad. I mean, in fairness to Tanakh, I think when he's trying to say goodbye to his girlfriend, they're trying to sneak one in while the parents are still downstairs. Or do I have it the other way
You
around?
got it
Is that
reversed.
Julie?
That's
Yeah,
Julio. Yeah.
that's Julio. Yeah. So, I mean, he doesn't even finish on that one because
Mm-mm.
his mother comes upstairs. So, yeah. So maybe there's an excuse there. They're trying to be very fast. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's they're very young and they are like babies in this movie. After seeing him as this grizzled freedom fighter for so many episodes of Andor, it's funny watching
Mm-hmm.
him as a baby. I think he was like a photo romance pinup, wasn't he? Diego Luna originally, wasn't he in soap operas and things?
I think it's possible. I mean, it's interesting to me because I definitely have more of a relationship with Gael Garcia Bernal, not just because he's actually appeared in multiple queer titles. Like, Conrad, I don't know if you've ever seen Pedro Almodovar's Bad Education, but he plays a man who is a drag queen who has been sexually
Ah.
abused by priests and has like this kind of revenge tactic. It's a great film, but he also, I want to say just 2 years ago, played Cassandro, who is a wrestler, but like the kind of wrestler where they dress up and they're very flamboyant and they're there to get their asses handed to them by the more, manly, masculine wrestlers. And he becomes famous for beating that and overcoming that stigma and becoming a very successful wrestler in his own. So you can imagine how young me was very crushed when I finally came out and was like, this actor who I find so incredibly attractive contributed to my sexual awakening. Oh, and he's not gay. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, fuck.
I don't think Diego Luna is either.
No, neither one of them are.
No.
But it is interesting because I know that Garcia Bernal breaks out as a result of this movie. So suddenly people really start paying closer attention to him. And I think it took longer for Diego Luna to really hit his stride with other texts that, for lack of a better term, figure out how to use him best.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of him until Rogue One, which
Okay.
is terrible, but it's true.
I mean, there's a lot of actors in the world. We can't know them all, but yeah, it just sort of depends on what circles you're movie watching in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still absolutely shocking that I'd not watched this one, but that's because I did think this was exclusively a toxic masculine hetero
Oh,
movie.
okay. I mean, you're forgiven for thinking that because if you didn't know, you would just be watching about the first 2/3 of this movie thinking, these guys are kind of insufferable. Like, they are
Mm.
terrible. And, like, especially as the movie has aged and we become more feminist and more open minded, or at least you and I do, not so much the state of the world, but it's hard to watch this movie and be like, oh my God, when is someone going to call these two on their fucking shit? And really, that is what Louisa's role is in this. I mean, she gets her own arc, and I think there is that really devastating moment where you find out what happens to her when they meet up in the coda at the end of the film. But for a lot of the runtime, it really does feel like Louisa is there to impart some sage advice, both educational in terms of the way the world works, but also sexual. Hey, boys, figure your shit out. And then I'll leave you two to it.
Yes, she's the character that I found the most engaging
Mm-hmm.
in the movie. I
Well,
was
she's an
intrigued by her.
adult.
Yeah, this is true. No, I absolutely loved her. It took me a while to clock where I'd seen her before, and of course, it was Pan's Labyrinth where she was
Oh,
Mercedes.
okay.
Yeah,
Makes
but
sense.
I was completely hoodwinked by the film's misdirection. So you are led to believe that the reason that she agrees on a whim to go away with these two boys who clearly want to do nothing other than get her alone and have sex with her,
Mm-hmm.
because their cousin has cheated on her, and so he's been
Yes.
unfaithful. So
Yeah.
you think she's doing it as a revenge thing, like, screw
Yeah,
you, I'm off with these two guys and I'm going to have some fun.
exactly.
And you kind of forget that you see her very early on in the movie going to a doctor's appointment, and you are not told what it is about. You do not hear the dialogue, and the omniscient narrator does not tell you anything about it.
For the first time ever in this
For the
entire
first
movie,
time.
right?
Yeah, because he has so much to say about everything else, including random side characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it gets until the very end before you discover that she has learned of a cancer diagnosis,
Yeah.
and she passes away off screen after settling in this haven, this heaven's
Mm-hmm.
mouth, which I found really quite moving.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me recontextualize the entire movie and want to
Mm-hmm.
watch it again, although I did realize that they are surrounded by death throughout the entire movie.
Yes.
And even Louisa, when she is playing with the child, the family that's living locally around the
Mm-hmm.
beach.
The fisherman. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's playing with one of their children in the sea, teaching them how to swim. And she says something about float like a corpse, float like a corpse.
Yeah.
It's laced throughout the entire movie. And I'm sure if I watched it again, I would see it everywhere, that it's hinting towards where we are headed with this character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's so important that the film ends with that and helps you to recontextualize it, because you realize I was so distracted by the dumb sexual shenanigans of the boys that in a way you're actually missing what the film is trying to really explore and engage with. And as I said, we're going to have a lot more to say about some of the political and social commentary that's embedded with the film, but like, I'll count myself among them. I think a lot of people just get blinded by like the dick and the sex in this movie, and they're just missing whole sections of what it's actually trying to do.
Yes, I think so. Which makes you feel like the boys, because you've missed it. You've just been
Mm-hmm.
so wrapped up in the sexual
Over
frisson.
here. I should have
Yeah.
been looking over here.
Yeah, I should have been paying attention to what's really happening with this woman. But I mean, it is a sexy film.
It is a sexy film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like undeniably hot.
Yeah. Steamy.
Okay, well, why don't we hop over to Patreon to continue our discussion, and we'll unpack some of this in greater detail. So, folks, if you want to join us, that would be patreon.com/thequeergaze.
Please do.